Alright, everybody, and we're back with another not live post commentary on some fancy drawing bits. Yes, it's been quite a while, and I swear if that sound makes it into the recording, I'm letting it be. But, well, it hasn't been a while for y'all. It's been a while for me, because I've taken my time making these, because I'm just that kind of person. Now, as far as what's going on screen, mountainous, tectonic activity zones. It's not that complicated, but I've had a mess dealing with these video files. Some of them are just the same old stuff again, and it makes me angry because that's not what I want. I want every video to show something interesting. So if there's repeats in these, I apologize. It's been hard to catch them. But yeah, I'm just kind of solidifying where everything goes on the map in these. And this is about near to 600 times speed. And the video is 10 minutes, but represents about 80 minutes of work. So yeah, it's a pretty fun experience. So every minute that passes, you're watching about 8 minutes of real life time. In the future, I think I'm just gonna condense hours of stuff into just straight up, not a lot of time, if that makes sense. I like this. I found out that if you spam the fill tool, it slowly kind of makes like a soft edge, which is probably a bad thing, but I liked how it looked. Although spamming it sometimes made it cover all the land and the same thing, and all the green areas outside of the selected area, which was pretty weird. That was something I had to consistently deal with. If you see me zooming around a lot, I apologize. It's basically me checking the entire map as a whole, zooming in and out, and just making sure that it all looks good, all in one piece. We're on the easternmost Isos and Kivran over there, or I think I'm Kujand. Yeah, there we go, Isos and Kujand, which is just a nice place. I just think it's pretty. I love it. There we go, some volcanic islands and stuff. I actually end up expanding those islands as well. Here's one of my favorite bits. So here we make the Viridian Isles, I guess they might be called. They might have a different name. They're ruled by Viridians. But yeah, it's like an old peninsula that got kind of cracked and broken and shredded. I still don't love the look of this place, but I also don't want to change it anymore. I don't know exactly what it would look like if you tore a part of land like this into pieces. And again, I'm not good at making archipelagos, which is basically what this is, like an archipelago peninsula at the end of a continent. It's not a simple process, I've learned. Here is me messing with, I guess I jumped from thing to thing and just messing with cultures. The squares you see when I turn off the culture map is resource maps. Dark red being things like iron, there's some gold there, many other resources. I don't really have them all on hand. And I honestly made a pretty bad key, so I might have to redo the resources at some point, but what can you do? There we go. So yeah, this is just a lot of like culture mapping and culture separation, and restructuring of those. And I guess I didn't record a lot of the culture mapping. I hope to do more of that in the future, but maybe not in a fast forward video. Maybe actually actively discussing what is occurring. We'll see about that. But yeah, you can see how the resources are within certain culture maps and how that could affect their societies, which I think is pretty dang cool. Geez, alright, this is not the funnest thing to watch. I wish I knew what all the colors were so I could give y'all some ideas. I take the cultures off the mountains as I feel they are very inhospitable areas. They will definitely have things like ogres, dragons, like they actually get their own culture maps, but they're not as completely all over the place covering every inch of the land. These are very early culture maps that I ended up kind of shifting and altering as was required. So they end up changing a lot. So that's a thing that matters a lot in this. As you can see, above the cyan, there's some like artifacts going on in the water. think I end up erasing them and fixing them a bit. But yeah, there's like all these artifacts in the water and of basically just lines left over from the selection tool and just the way this program handles that kind of like the very edges of selected areas are not always fully colored over. It can leave a very thin line depending on how exactly you select things. Yeah, so you can see there's like a line between the mainland of green and the little island of green. That's a very annoying issue, but sometimes you just can't help it. A lot of these nations are pretty big and would probably get shrunk, although these are cultures, not nations. Yeah, there's going to be nation maps later on. These are just like the kinds of people and whether they identify with the other people around them. This area they're working on is the Viridian area, the north of Dorosin. I have a bit of a Viridian Empire and like kind of like Roman-inspired island nation. I wanted this to be my generic fantasy area, but I don't know if it's going to continue to be that. Really, I mean, it brings to mind the question of what is generic fantasy, which like Western European. There's like dragons or something. I don't know. It's very specific and weird, but oddly you can make things that are not in that bubble and still be considered generic fantasy as long as you have like dwarves and elves and orcs and the rest. Oh, I feel like I should have done more shape warping with my warp tool. I feel like my islands would look a little bit more cool and organic if I did that. There's a lot of like line islands and then like triangular blob islands, which I dislike. But again, what can you do? Alright, so about 7 minutes in, and yeah, this has been all culture. But I hope the videos have been interesting. There should be 4 of them in total. This should be number 3, and I'm just kind of hyped to talk about this and share it. And sometimes I even get ideas from kind of just talking to myself. It's weird, but it's helpful in some ways. Um, I even did some world building on my own where I recorded something. I found it kind of embarrassing, but I did record it just because it made me just want to randomly talk, and that normally sounds annoying, but it also just lets your ideas flow freely. All these islands, so we're looking at Rowan. I'm thinking like Japanese and Chinese influences, maybe a bit of Korean, and a lot of naval prowess. I got Rowan from kind of messing with the idea of the name Ronin, because I thought originally I named it Japón, which is just like basically a weird Spanish version of Japan, and I thought that was just kind of lazy. Here we go with the western archipelago of mini islands. It's like a gigantic ocean in the middle of this area. At least I think it's huge. The scale's kind of off, and I'm worried that it would not take very long at all to go between these islands on a boat. If this was all land, it would take several days to get. It would take like a day or two to get from island to island. I don't know how that transfers in boat speed because I feel like boats actually do travel quite quickly. Even air-powered ones travel a lot quickly than the average walking or horse using person. So that is a very interesting question to keep in mind. All right, so yeah, more Rowanese culture building here. A lot of back and forth, a lot of debating and comparing and contrasting. And I have cut out a lot of waiting time that was me like looking at YouTube or something. So you can tell that it takes me a lot to really be convinced that something is a good idea. And even then, I am not sure. It becomes a back and forth. It becomes a problem. I also like how this version of Japan, I believe, or my own version of kind of like an Asian island chain, has some volcanoes, an active volcanic mountain range upon it. I think Japan has that too, but I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. But we're nearing the end of the video, so I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and comment anything interesting that you think would be cool to add to the world. All that junk, like, comment, subscribe, whatever else. Tell me I'm trash. It's all applicable, and I'll see you guys next time.